It's Thursday, October 6th, 2022. I was reviewing the See the BS 2 News at 9 a.m. that they did yesterday. The meteorologist, whose name is John, was sitting with Cindy. And he was going over like some fascinating facts of science for which just the word peptide, like in my like quiet nerdiness, I was just like, like nobody speaks of peptide on the television. I was like, that's interesting. I was like, so I paid a little closer attention to it. Also, same broadcast, um, Cardinal or Timothy. Is it Cardinal Timothy Dolan, I believe, or Cardinal Dolan? I'm not quite sure. But they said that he was visiting a church, a hospital. He was dressed, I believe it's called vestments, but his costume, his I don't celebratory robes for the blessing of a facility, which makes that's his uniform um, for his life profession, um, and so and he represents, as far as I'm aware, the Catholic Church at um, there's a lot of moving pieces in the man department of New York. Um, and so I'm watching, and he actually says the word Jesus on television. I have not heard that in like my whole life frame, it feels like. I mean, perhaps on a Sunday broadcast, but it was a Tuesday. So that was interesting. Um, and interestingly enough, going back to this John gentleman, um, and then his mention of peptides in science, um, at a later broadcast on October 5th, 2022, on a different channel, Channel 7, at 4 p.m., they make an announcement only once in all of the broadcast, and I caught it. They made this announcement of Honorable Governor, although they don't say honorable, they just say Governor Kathy Hochul. But I see that on the website, she, at some point when I was trying to get a contact, which I couldn't find, it referred to her as honorable on that New York State website. So I don't know how to address, but I'll go with what the TV media at Sorcery, how they speak of her, because on the radio sometimes I hear them and they say such not nice things of her. But again, that sounds like party lines. So, with the freedom of speech in our area. So I'm listening, and they say that she made a decision. I think it's a good one personally, that says that for the drinking water, if one of, I believe she said it has something to do with that if somebody actually pollutes the drinking water, that she wrote something that then they can go after the polluter, that's trying to harm the residents that are being essentially poisoned. I don't know what takes so long and why that was so long in coming, why that wasn't just a standard of living already in place. So here's the 9 a.m. broadcast on Channel 2 for the See the BS.
We all know drinking water is important for our health, but could also hold important clues on how life on Earth began.
And that's the important thing, life on Earth. So listen to this. Chemists with Purdue University say they've discovered a mechanism for peptide-forming reactions in water. What in the world is that? Well, peptides are the building blocks of proteins, also known as the building blocks of life. They say learning more about how water works could help develop drugs to treat some of humanity's most debilitating diseases. But isn't everybody missing this? What are we now finding on Mars, and what are we now trying to find on the, if you find any ice somewhere out in the solar system, then you got water, and then if you can build life and you have the amino acids and then the peptides, then you are like building life on other. This isn't cool to you?
No, you know why? Because you're so excited.
No,
all the
because you
excitement
just
is
want
you.
another brownie.
No, I don't want another brownie. No, you know what it was? It was a little confusing to me. I read about this study and everything, but I think the important thing for people at home is that to be able to find medicines and cures for things faster.
We are so spoiled in this country because we have water everywhere. 70% now I think it's 90% of California under severe drought. So water is precious. So if we can maximize whatever water we do have and can find to form life, and more importantly, not so much form, sustain life, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, again, I went to community college. I had a really wonderful medical microbiology professor. I also had wonderful anatomy and physiology professors and a wonderful biology professor, whoever that was, long time ago, once upon a time. I was pretty sure peptides, not necessarily just peptides, because that's some kind of chemical bonding format, but I'm pretty sure that the whole amino acids in water thing means there's already life in the water. Like, are we talking amoeba life? Are we talking like virus capsid? Are we talking about like quadruplane and reshifting of peptides and folding proteins that then cause other issues at genetic sequencing level? I'm just because like when I hear the message and I'm like, oh, and then I'm thinking, who is putting all of these contaminants in the water? But again, and then I've got nobody to call upon. I mean, like, I met a science principal once. I was so unprepared for that level of professionalism. I even said to him, I said, I feel like I am so interested, but I have no idea how to even have a conversation about how fascinating I find that. I mean, I was rendered speechless, but only because I don't even know how to construct a conversation about how cool of a degree of certainty that you walk around with. And I don't even know who's the issuing authority and body on, like, where do you come from that was even an option for you? Like, how cool. So anyhow, so then I go from this to Kathy Hochul wrote something. They made an announcement on Channel 7. So I'm going to pause this for a second and pull that out.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul is making sure anyone who contaminates the state's drinking water is held accountable. She signed legislation today making it legal for water companies to take legal action against polluters. The bill gives local suppliers another avenue against those polluters and an avenue to recover the cost of treatment or filtration. Hochul says this bill prioritizes the health and well-being of New Yorkers.
Amazon is...
I am so happy to hear that. And it got one little slot of coverage. And I don't even know if like the full weight bearing, like, this was huge, was even felt anywhere in the universe of people who sit and are just watching as like couch potatoes. And like, I mean, I watch through a different lens for a different purpose, but I'm like, that is huge. I mean, like, I don't know, it took so long, but that was there's importance in that, because I mean, I'm personally having some problems. I can't figure out if it's contaminants in the water. I don't know if if it's a night crawler issue with how do you get to such a dangerous level that you need to go to the hospital for a blood transfusion? There's no hemorrhagic activity whatsoever. Did somebody sneak in and like use me as a tap? I mean, like questions I don't even want to ask, but based on I'm in New York and there's some problems in, did I say Department of Man? The man department? There's a whole lot of, I mean, again, I'm not going to, at bearings, moorings, and like the man upstairs, and like there's some Mad Scar reference to like King Julian, which I don't know what that or who that is, and like the all hail the New York Giants. And that was definitely a movie reference that I saw where Alex was in the Central Park Zoo as a lion, and I'm like, that has significance for my son Alexander and I. Whatever it means elsewhere in the world, I have no idea. But at like a mooring, a bearing, trying to orient oneself and keep oneself in a reality that other people are sharing in, that I might not understand the full extent of it, but I know it is definitely reality-based and definitely important somewhere. And so again, not quite sure, but I know it's important. So that happened, and then I'm going to rewind it back to the other very important piece, which is this being the symbol for like love in your heart, or I love you, but like love in your heart in a sense of bless your heart, and like near and dear to my heart in there's God and country, and then there's family. And those are the three in I am trying still. I just am a little, it feels like left in the dark, I suppose. I mean, is that inappropriate? I should say, before I put this Cardinal Dolan mention, or Cardinal Timothy Dolan mention on the New York scene, since he's in the state of New York in the Man Department, or one of the representatives from the Man Department that has been here, I'm pretty sure since I was in St. Dominic's, and we had special assembly one day, and a special visitor. And I was in one of the pews in that church, under the same roof. And so, in that very specific school in Oyster Bay, which was near the Roosevelt family estate of presidential past children, the one, Teddy, that looks, and I made mention of, had a USV on his collar brass, for whatever that means, that I can't get straight answers around here, because the two people I have to ask, which are Linda and Lou, don't know, and I don't know who or where to reach out to ask such questions. So I was in there. Now, we wore a very specific uniform shirt. It was an Oxford white button down. That was one key piece for that specific school, along with other pieces for the St. Dominic reference. I believe it was around 90, 91, somewhere around there is when I entered 9th grade. Right around the time I think the first sting happened, for which no answers were ever given to my person, while things went on around the world and here in New York without my knowing about it. Whether my parents were brought in or not, I don't know. but it wasn't communicated to me directly why girls might come after me and want to harm me, why after school activities had to be real careful. Like, there was no thorough conversation. I still, to this day, am not quite sure why that was, and things that were handled, and I don't know how or by whom, or why then when I got to marrying age, why other things happened, and why certain people that I should have been introduced to weren't. Again, really confusing from my point of view.
It is 9:12. Welcome back to CBS 2 News at 9 a.m. It is Wednesday, halfway through, and John Elliott says it's going to be rainy, so don't forget your umbrella today. Well, a hospital for extremely sick children will soon reopen in East Harlem after getting a much-needed expansion. Timothy Cardinal Dolan was at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, and so was our Nick Calloway.
Cardinal Dolan was on hand to bless the renovated, expanded, and newly named Arch Care at Mother Cabrini Hospital.
It's really important for those of us who dare to say that we're trying our best to be followers of Jesus, because he always had like a special radar for those at the side of the road, those who are not being tended to, those whom people usually walk by. And that's why we want to, in his holy name, welcome those people here.
Arch Care at Mother Cabrini, formerly known as the Specialty Hospital for Children in Manhattan, was created by the Archdiocese of New York 50 years ago to provide a nurturing home for severely disabled and medically fragile children and young adults.
It's a very special population because these are the most fragile individuals in our society.
For the patients here, this place is much more than just a hospital. It's a home. And for their families, it's a second home.
I'll be able to enjoy being with her here with my family, knowing that she's in such a cheerful place, such a modern place, clean.
Rose Hearn's 20-year-old daughter, Jillian Rose, is among the patients who will soon reside here.
Have it be bright and cheerful under circumstances that...
And again, I'm not getting into personal stories here, but with having walked a walk and a life of trying to find a safe place amongst the New York population, having been to St. John's Episcopal, St. John's Vincent, or I thought it was a Catholic school. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But there was another incident after St. Dominic's that happened there. And there was no integration, or after, like, there was a Christian awakening that they tried for a weekend thing. Don't know how that happened, or like what that was about. But I did not have another under one roof with that uniform with Cardinal Timothy Dolan. He did not, I don't know if they didn't invite him. I don't know if there's not enough integration with the services, if that falls under the Catholic diocese, it's on Crescent Street in Astoria. I don't know the bell that used to ring there. I don't know the metallurgy for clergy. I'm not quite sure. However, it seems uber important that there were things in the city by my senior year of 95, 96, where I was hurt. I was visited in Ishkill by somebody important, I felt. But then again, I don't know what happened after that. So those were like a year of turning that was, I don't know, right before then other things. I mean, like within that window of possibility, for like the years of finding that person. I mean, again, knowing that there are people possibly outside of New York, that are going through some other formal training, some other formal whatever, that knew I existed or girls like me existed, and me knowing that they existed, and at some point there would have to be some form of help for us to find one another, because the regular, ordinary was not going to work at Pearl, Girl with a Pearl Earring, and Pearl of Great Price. I did notice on this a publisher's date, and what two areas mentioned in it are for like bless your heart type of a thing, and really important things that where I'm at, and a high bridge to elsewhere. Again, there's been several life visits. I'm just never quite sure what's on the up and up and what's on other people's schedules while I'm here, and knowing that I wanted something that looked completely different than what was whatever, and like if there's a problem in the man department because the wrong ones like, I mean, there was the right ones, but then there's the 1976 issue, which I don't want to upset the triplets, which might be a quad, but like whatever on that. I got twinning issues to do. I mean, how do I tap dance around that one and still survive and get what I need? I mean, it seems a little ridiculous that in a place that knows everything, I mean, down to like the oxygen and carbon dioxide levels coming out of one's last breath, and all of the possibilities in between, how something so simple and sacred as the correct relationship from the first time was not something that was able to be accomplished or worked through. It's really frustrating. Especially with the way that this area has suffered under and through in different things that are whirling around based on other, perhaps great beyond and outside. It's a culmination, I think, of seen and unforeseen, but I'm just stuck in this tide pool, let's call it, or lagoon, and I see signs of through the looking glass. If I just type in the bearing and mooring anchor point just to grapple with a disgruntled, like, I mean, I feel like I've been forced into doing grunt work, but I have a pearl earring. It's supposed to be on the golden plates. I mean, they mentioned it. UK gave me the name Hella. I entered a building with metallurgy, originally of West Troy, and then was brought elsewhere for that specific relationship. Again, I'm just confused where all the time went and what it was spent on, since it's still not correct, it feels. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.